He say, she say, we say, I say, hearing out them points of views when I see it my way. Yes it goes, yes it knows, maybe so's, probably not. Shoulds and coulds, do's and don'ts, your woulds and won'ts is how you rock. Politicians and religions, on your house or are you renting? Is you married? Is you single? Meta interest when you mingle, turn out to be someone you into. So how long before the bed get wrinkled? Children when they tripping, is it time out or do you whip them? Opinions and decisions, hunches, intuitions, may or may not get it, cause people's experience different. Check the prejudice at the door. Speak the line, you give the flow. Tell the truth if it's sweet or sour, cause the hour we spitting that fire.
Hello, everyone. This is Spitting Fire coming to you with another one. You know the verbal disclaimer. Make sure you are over the age of 18 when you visit my channel. Do not allow anyone under the age of 18 to visit my channel. And make sure you know that some of the curse words and aggressive language and tone that I use sometimes is deliberate, sometimes it's passionate. But this is Spitting Fire. I don't change it for anyone. If you do not like the language that I use, you may want to visit another channel. This has been fire. What did you think you were going to get? Okay, so if you hadn't visited my last video that I have dropped previously before this one, it is about a Detroit teen. And in that message, I have told you that I wanted you to discuss some things. And I wanted you to try to sit up there and get where I'm going to go with this. Because it's kind of a story that hit close to home because it's someone that my daughter knew. But then also, it's kind of what I was talking about from last year to date. And I wanted you guys to understand something about things that were said on these YouTube streets a couple days ago with the ops on there was speaking about 17-year-olds dating a particular famous guy that we know that's been detained right now. And they were talking about being 17 and dating older and things of that. And we're going to talk about these things. We're going to talk about these things right now. And this is kind of like a part two in a way, because I want to reiterate some things. Okay. So we had a 17-year-old boy who was at a haunted house, and he decides to make the wrong decision and take a life of a full-grown legal man. Okay. But then in this particular situation, we're going to be talking about teenagers. Okay. Teenage girls and tweens. Okay. Those who are not yet teenagers, but not babies. We're going to be talking about them as well. And how they're being over sexualized. And the responsibilities of people. And whose responsibility is it? Because we often know that the young man that I did a story about just prior to this video made the wrong decision. A decision that ultimately changed his life forever. And he's being charged as an adult. But then I mentioned that 2019. I said when R. Kelly was first brought out of the story, I said this is so funny and hypocritical of this country that we can have a teenager who's involved with an older man and very well aware, but we want the world to think that they're gullible and they're being taken advantage of. And I've often spoke on my story about me being the aggressor, even though I was the younger one and the underage one. And we talked about in that video that I did 2019, we also talked about how a teenager can kill someone and be charged as an adult, as we just seen the last video that I dropped. But when it comes to sex with an older person, that person will be charged with sexual abuse of a minor and labeled a pedophile. And then we say they are not old enough to consent. But yet we have this young man who's not old enough to purchase a gun, But nobody is trying to go after the gun holder or where they get it from. Why? Because it's all over the streets of Detroit and all other urban cities around the world. But that doesn't give it an excuse that it got into the hands of someone that was underage. Is anyone going to check the serial numbers to find out who and where that gun belonged to? And who is it responsible of, and bring that person to charges? Because the way that the law is saying it, they're teenagers, they don't know what they're doing. I think that's hypocritical. I think it's very hypocritical. And I think that when we talk about these type of things, I said that in the video that I did 2019. It's mighty funny that a 14-year-old girl can commit a crime and be charged as an adult, but if she has sex with an older man, then he's the pedophile, he goes away, and she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm just not understanding that logic. Not saying that I agree with someone underage dating someone of age or someone of age dating someone underage. I'm just not understanding how we go about doing things. So Netflix was indicted on over sexualizing tweens. And they felt that these young girls were being exploited, over sexualized and things of that nature. And that may be. Again, that goes back to the hypocrisy of us as a country, as a world. Because we often say Netflix is at fault. Everyone is at fault for these young girls dressing like this. Or the movie showing that these tweens are in situations that they shouldn't be in at that particular age. But then we have different organizations come out that actually say they are helping little black girls in the neighborhood. And I find it ironic that these images that you see today wasn't like this 20 years ago. When it comes to over-sexualizing tweens and teens, they have colored girls with one white. But back in the day, it was all white girls and there would be one black. I find it interesting how they use a lot of psychological issues and imagery and play games and how they're going to program you. All this is programming. But it doesn't go back to Netflix being indicted. If you sit up here and listen to my 2019 videos, all this has been played off. And maybe I was a year ahead of my time when I was talking about these situations. Look at the poses of these young girls. We have celebrities posing like this all the time, like your Cardi B's and your Megan Thee Stallions. But is it Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B's job to raise your young girls? Is it yours? In other words, we're indicting Netflix because we think these tweens are too young to be posing in the way that they're posing. And don't get Spitfire wrong. I am in total agreement with that. But I'm also, kind of putting the blame somewhere else, as I've always did in 2019 to date. So, let's listen to this video. Pay attention closely because it's very short.
The fact that his friend sent him 3 12-year-old girls that he had purchased from their parents.
Now, as you've seen that clip, you knew that was Epstein, the late Epstein who had died, last year during the trial, and they say that he committed suicide, And also, he wasn't the only one that was arrested during that time. It was R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, to name a few, from 2018 to 2019, per via Me Too movement and other women liberations movement. Without any proof, these men were charged with sexual mishap of young women, or young girls and minors. Some of them have proof, some of them didn't have proof, or whatever. But I've often indicated in my video last year, and I was the first one here on Spitfire to say, where were the parents? And why aren't they being arrested? Okay? Just like the girls in Cutie Pies. The girls didn't put themselves there. Netflix didn't go in to kidnap them. Where are these parents? Why aren't these parents being charged, okay, in this situation as well? Just as I said in the R. Kelly situation. But getting to the R. Kelly situation, we'll be talking about that a little later. Let's get into talking about Joe Biden. Okay, so we know Melissa Milano was part of the Me Too movement, a very heavy etiquette. And when it came to this man, she didn't think that those situations should occur. Her and Rosie McGowan got into a big old argument about it. It was publicly drawn out. She felt like she was being a hypocrite. You're supposed to believe women only. But I don't believe in that concept here on Spitting Fire. Women lie as well. And I don't believe in the hypocrisy into which Melissa Milano and Me Too, Tarana Burke, and everything, because this is their candidate of choice. This is the party that they support. A lot of the women liberations support the Democratic Party. Okay? But they also was the one who brought in the Me Too movement to try to take down Judge Kavanaugh. Okay? And Tarana Burke wrote Miss Ford, his accuser, okay, who said that he was too drunk to rape her and he fell off of her. But she's so damaged and slept with the lights on ever since. Over a drunk man that couldn't even hold his own balance. And she was so weak she couldn't fight him off until he just fell off of her. Okay, all of that being said, that was just a little too drawn out, a little too dramatic, and just to me a bunch of lies. But here we have Monica Lewinsky, and we have Bill Clinton. You don't hear anything about none of the Me Too movement. This would have been a perfect situation for the Me Too movement. I mean, let's face it, she actually have given fellatio to the president then, Bill Clinton. It all the power that he had in office. This would have been the perfect person for the Me Too movement and the LGBT, who is behind all these movements in bringing down heterosexual men. Okay? Because they want to promote and grab alternative life and make it the dominant. In other words, we have traditional life, one man, one woman. But now that we have alternative life to love whomever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want, and whoever it is, then they want that to be the dominant and tradition to be no more. And that is the key. That is the key to terminating abortions because they are not allowed to have children. And there are stories that's popping up about alternative life. You know, before I even had Spit and Fire on my personal Facebook page, I used to discuss these things years ago in early 2000 before they were even allowed to marry. And I was told that my channel was too controversial, too political, because I would say things that people were scared to say because of their jobs, their families, their churches, or even they're supporting someone that is about the people I'm speaking of. Well, let's not forget, these people are in everyone's family. I have alternative people in my family. And love is love. So don't think that this is a hate crime. This is something that is the truth. You know, like back in the 90s when they were talking about black on black crime. A lot of black people got offended by it, but it was the truth. A lot of times people don't like to hear the truth. But here on Spitting Fire, I'm not scared of the LGBTQIA because I will speak the truth. You can love who you want to love. That is your choice. That is your choice. And it is your right. And you fought for that right, piggybacking off of the civil rights movement. However, it still worked for you. Kudos to the LGBT. However, you can get your rights passed, however, you can get things to support the cause into which you're navigating for, that is fine. However, and advocating for. You're navigating and advocating for. However, let's talk about the narratives that they're putting out there. Like the Me Too movement, helping them feminism take down traditional men, believe women, all men are liars, things like that. But if you notice, I've also showed you guys a video on my thread, on my timeline, about R. Kelly. And Orenike was speaking to a openly gay man. And I found it to be very ironic that that would happen. But I've often told you in 2019, before R. Kelly was arrested and everything, that the LGBT was behind this. A lot of the LGBT emailed me and thought that I was preaching hate. I'm not preaching hate at all, but I'm specifically telling the truth. There's nothing wrong with the LGBT or being part of that community, but there's also nothing wrong with being traditional. And that is the problem that we as Americans have to sit up there and protect. Everyone does not live an alternative life. In other words, if I am a traditional woman and I want to protect traditional way of living without disrespecting the alternative way of living, I should be able to do so. I should not be called homophobic. I should not be saying I'm preaching hate or anything like that. Because love is love. And my life is also mine. Now, as we get back to that little short video that I showed you, okay? You know, this one right here.
The fact that his friend sent him 3 12-year-old girls that he had purchased from their parents.
The girl said these are the young girls that they purchased from their parents. I've said that in 2019 when it comes to human trafficking. Human trafficking is on a rise. Yes, it happens where they pick up young girls and snatch them off the street. But what they don't tell you is that a lot of the time it starts at home. Spit and Fire has been telling you this since 2019. Now, I was on the channel the other day where there was a debate, and one of the girls in the R. Kelly situation, father was on there, and they were talking about he having sex with a 17-year-old, and the person who's supposed to be kin to him was speaking with him, and all this and that, and they were just having this good old grand conversation. But one of the things that they were saying, and that I partly agree with, when they said, well, people were sitting up there saying he purchased a young girl. Well, if he purchased a young girl, then that means that's illegal, because you're not supposed to be purchasing young girls. That's true. That is absolutely true. You're not supposed to be purchasing young girls, especially if they underage. That is true. True. However, your first line of defense as a young girl who have parents in their life is your parents. They're supposed to protect you at all costs. When your parents are the ones who sell you, as it said in the video, they purchased them for their parents, then that means your parents sold you. This is the other half of that they wasn't speaking to you. Just like a person buying a young girl, selling them is also illegal. I hope you guys hear me. Selling them is illegal. And not only is it illegal, it started at home. What Spit and Fire was telling you. What I told you, that the FBI should be arresting parents. She said it in an interview about Epstein. And if you watch that Netflix with that 2 or 3 hour segment of Epstein, another young lady, not this particular one, said that they were purchased from the parents. And no parents are arrested for selling their children. Where is the Department of Human Services in this? AKA Homeland Security. Homeland Security is a policing agent for the Department of Human Services. And they should have been arresting these parents as well as the FBI arresting the men that purchased these parents across the border. So, in other words, I have often said in Spit and Fire, if the law is not just, how can you hold R. Kelly just? In other words, it is no longer about his innocence and guilt. It's about the fact that we have a democracy, we have a policy, we have constitutional laws that has to be abided by. And the law often states that they can't break the law to get you. In other words, you're breaking the law when you do not allow or arrest the parents or allow them to be held accountable. You can't purchase a child, but your damn show can't sell one either. It's against the law. So when Spit and Fire said in 2019 that the parents should have been arrested, I know what I'm talking about. Because if you're going to arrest R. Kelly, you should have been having some handcuffs on the parents. And when it comes to children, no one should have gotten immunity. If the law is not just, how can you hold R. Kelly just? How can the law break the law to get someone? Because the law says it can't do that. In other words, the law cannot go in your house illegally without a search warrant and grab what they want and arrest you. If they don't have a search warrant, the judge is supposed to throw it all out. But also the Constitution tells you you cannot break the law to get someone. In other words, every agency and policing agency has to follow a chain of command, protocol, and everything that they have to make about an arrest. When they arrest R. Kelly, they gave him his rights. They read him. If they didn't read him his rights, then they would have had this case thrown out because his rights wasn't read. You get what I'm going with this? In other words, you cannot break the law to get him. You can't do that. You can't say he purchased the girl and not get the person who sold. If you're going to get the whole enterprise, you got to get the seller and the buyer. This is why police do stings. Sometimes they do stings arresting prostitutes, but sometimes they do stings arresting Johns. You can't sell, you can't buy sex because it's illegal. But it's only illegal because they haven't figured out how to tax it. Just like they made marijuana illegal for a long time until they figured out how to tax recreational use marijuana and how we can make money off of doing it. Once the government makes sure they find our way, the shit will be legal. In other words, when I was talking to you about the Facebook situation and I said something about the LGBT, I was speaking on incest, pedophilia. And a lot of times, as you read or seen on the block bender when he told you about California governor being lenient about the sexual deviant laws, okay, predators or whatever, you have to understand something. Alternative way that includes that. And when I said that to people, they told me that's not true. Yes, it is. It starts there. It starts there. Let's take back down history. Let's take a history lesson. When LGBT first came out and wanted their rights, they said, well, I was born this way. Who would want to be born this way? I can't help it. Remember that? Till I have a right to live my life the way I want to. Love is love. Remember that? Or I was molested, and this is why I'm now this way. That has happened. They have went through a whole lot of situations into identifying why they're gay. Almost similar to how blacks went through different types of names to try to identify the proper name of the culture. We went from Negroes to Black, to African American. In the biblical days, we were Nubians. We were all these things because we hadn't found what it is to identify us as a culture. They went through the same thing. What are we want to be? How are we going to justify the way that we are being alternative? Well, there's no justification for it. You are who you are, and if it's your choice, it's your choice. Now, do I believe people were born that way? Well, I'm not sure. I know your color is something that you were born with because we can see it. But what your preference is, we have no idea. Because everyone turned alternative for different reasons. That has not been proven. So, that being said, when people sit up there and say, oh, buying underage girls is against the law, well, the parents selling them is too. And no one in Epstein's case, no parent has been arrested there either. Spit and Fire has stated in 2019. And my co-bloggers have been protesting, where were the parents? We're going to bring awareness to the parents. If you sign your child over to an alternative person or this person without their being supervised and you didn't know these people and put that child in harm's way, we're coming at you to bring you down. If you're going to bring down the king in R&B because you're saying he's a pedophile and there's no proof, we're going to bring you down too. And we're not going to stop until the FBI start putting some bracelets on you as well. Thank you for listening to Spit and Fire. I'm your girl, R.A. Jackson.